Well, when we study any play, novel, or poem, it is necessary for anyone to reach to its soul. Reaching to soul is not an easy task. One need to peel off the layers and that are very much visible, and then only there is a possibility that you will be reaching out to the soul of a text. Comparatively, this task is done in a very easy way, especially the olden plays, by its soliloquy. A question might come in your minds. What is a soliloquy? If we go by its definition, a soliloquy is a kind of a presenting one's own inner thoughts, usually not heard by anyone. This is a pretty old technique, a technique which was used by many playwrights when the play was not presented in the way it is presented today. This technique was used to inform the inner and the personal thoughts of a character. Today, this is done by the use of other dramatic techniques. Sometimes plays are crafted, they are specifically crafted in such a way that there is no need to this technique. It is a password to the inner persona of a person. In Hamlet, of course, the importance of soliloquies is too much because the play is basically an inner journey of Hamlet. How he manages his inner engineering, if I want to put a very famous Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev's phrase. The the play rises above merely a revenge play because soliloquies are very effective that take play above all the levels. All the question is how many soliloquies are there in Hamlet? There are seven soliloquies in Hamlet, right from "Oh, Sally flesh would melt" to "How all occasions do inform against me." Of course, this is why to be or not to be. That is the question. A very, very, very famous soliloquy. An inner journey. An inner journey in Hamlet. What we find all here, all these soliloquies, is a journey of Hamlet, an angry person, a confused person, to reaching to antic disposition. Hamlet uses this word antic disposition, by which he means he would present himself as a crazy person, by which his uncle Claudius would get confused of his actions. Let us understand all these soliloquies one by one. Seven soliloquies in Hamlet. Soliloquy 1. Oh, silly flesh would melt, blah, 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 blah. In this soliloquy, Hamlet wishes his body would melt away in dew and wishes even not to exist at all. This is the way he will leave behind all, all the problems of living human being. At this moment, I'm tempted to digress a little bit because digression, I always do. When I was watching an interview, one person asked to the novelist that his novel ends abruptly. The writer replied with a smiling face, "Of course, I know that my novel ends abruptly because," and he added, "life also ends abruptly." I loved that sentence so much so that I framed the sentence and made a portrait to be placed at my writing space. Once, when I was driving, I saw something written on the car that was going ahead of me. A call may come any time. A call may come any time. These words talk about the reality of life of Hamlet. Though he was a, though he was a prince, his life was not a cakewalk. It was not rosy. His father was murdered. His mother had not has got married to his own uncle. Everything was confused in his love life. For him, living was more horrible. Perhaps, perhaps death was more soothing. He cannot commit suicide. Yeah, his wish was to melt away. This is the first soliloquy that appears in Scene 1 and Act 2. Repetition of the words like, oh God, it talks about his helplessness. The world for him is very stale, it is very flat and unprofitable. It is like an unweeded garden. Unweeded because with just 2 months have passed to the death of his father, and his mother got married to his uncle. So the world is rough to his sensitive mind. His father was an excellent king. He gives reference of Hyperion and satire. The question troubles him is that how come his mother is so comfortable with his uncle? The same feelings got expression when he met Gertrude, his mother, after a play within the play. In the soliloquy itself comes that very famous line, Frailty, thy name is woman. It was a wicked speed she took and got immediately married. No doubt, all this breaks his speed, and he says that I must, I must hold my tongue. This soliloquy talks about ill feelings of his mother and his uncle. He contemplates about his dead father as well. To him, his father was an excellent king. It talks about the religious side of Hamlet also, because he cannot commit suicide, though this is soliloquy. The confusion in Hamlet began, what to do and what not to do. This soliloquy throws a searching light on the character of Hamlet. Needs to be taken as not as a superficial character. It gives to his deep brooding nature. Now, let us go to the soliloquy number 2. All you host of heaven. This is a second soliloquy by Hamlet when he realizes that his uncle is really a villain. He had killed his own brother, who was the king of Denmark, and got married to his brother's wife. Here, in this soliloquy, Hamlet appeals to the god and everyone on the earth and on the hell, and he feels he must remain strong in his mission, that is, to take revenge. In the next part, Hamlet appeals to the ghost of his father, that is the real former King Hamlet, and feels that under any circumstances, he must not distract from his goal. He even tells himself that he needs to control all his youthful, trivial, or fond attributions and focus on the revenge motive. Hamlet passes some comments on his uncle who has become a villain. He addresses that it is through that fake smile his uncle is trying to hide the crime. The smile of Claudius is fake, and it is embedded with the evilness he has done to his own brother. The dramatic significance of This soliloquy is that Hamlet becomes resolute to take revenge for the misdeeds his uncle has done. He has understood by now that his uncle is the real culprit. The very famous quotation that one may smile and yet be a villain appears in this soliloquy. This is the direct observation of Hamlet of his uncle. If we try to collect various literary devices, we can find metrical variation is there, repetition is there, juxtaposition is there, alliteration is there, apostrophe is there, and whatnot. Here I have said studying Shakespeare is never ending. Studying Shakespeare is a never ending passion. Here in this video, we are trying Shakespeare for our examinations. Let me tell you, my dear friends, in the play, we come across two characters. One character, of course, is Hamlet, and the other one is a Latrice, who understand or they get the news of the death of their fathers. You can note the kind of response both of them give to this news. Hamlet is more given to the thinking, while Latrice did not think too much. He is bending upon the action. At one point of time, he even says, "I will cut his throat in the church." We find here, and later in the play, a conflict between thought and action. Hamlet wants to act on a profound thought, while Latrice is opposite to him. Let us not enter the cave of William Shakespeare. More we understand, or more we try to understand William Shakespeare, less we know of William Shakespeare. Now, let us come to soliloquy number 3. And the soliloquy number 3 begins with, "Oh, what a rogue and pleasant slave am I." In this soliloquy, Hamlet reflects upon his inaction. He accuses himself in these words, for he has not been able to step ahead to avenge his father's murder. This, no doubt, is one of the most despairing soliloquy in Shakespeare's plays. This soliloquy appears in Act number 2, scene number 2. In the beginning, he accuses himself. It is rather an insult to him. The words like rogue, the peasant slave, it all talks about how he considers himself belonging to the very, very low strata of the society. He should have been brave and dignified to take a revenge. After seeing a performance of an actor on Hecuba, and those thoughts enter his mind. An actor was able to create an illusion. Hamlet thinks that if the actor would have been genuinely suffering like Hamlet. This soliloquy talks about the traditional way of looking at the masculinity. Being masculine is related to more and more action, in which Hamlet failed so far. One can see the language used by William Shakespeare is highly gendered. But at the moment of the time, he is not sure about it. If Claudius was a real murderer, he thinks perhaps ghost would have appeared before him as a false ghost. The soliloquy throws light on the character of Hamlet. He feels frustrated, he feels powerless, and sans the action which has been assigned to him by his father. Soliloquy number 4, to be or not to be. If we don't know anything of the William Shakespeare's play Hamlet, we still know something about its very famous soliloquy, to be or not to be, because it is much talked about. Because this is one of the most quoted of William Shakespeare's soliloquies in many references. In many references, if someone is confused in life, he or she would say to be or not to be. if our boss troubles us a lot, we would say to be or not to be. If our beloved or lover, ditches us, we would exclaim to be or not to be. In simple terms, for any problem, for any confused situation, the words of Shakespeare come for our help. Without getting much into the discussion, let us concentrate on this soliloquy in Hamlet in the play. This soliloquy, it appears almost at the middle of the play. Three soliloquies this side and three soliloquies this side, and in the exactly in the middle portion of the play, this soliloquy finds its place. Obviously, it divides the play into two parts, one this and the other that. This is the technical placing of the play. Whatever the reason, we can talk about it some other time. What this soliloquy is all about. We all know that Hamlet has been informed by the ghost of his father that he has been murdered by his uncle Claudius. The job of taking revenge has been given to Hamlet. From that moment, this reality comes to know to Hamlet. He has been knowing the truth. He is not intended to take revenge blindly, but act upon. But he is inclined to more thinking and more brooding about the human situation as an educated and as a very cultured person. This is where William Shakespeare deviated from the earlier kinds of a play or the revenge tradition, we can say. He makes his hero a thinking man. So Hamlet confused about the revenge. He thinks a lot and is unable to find the truth for such a long period. In Act number 3, scene number 1, we find these words of Hamlet: to be or not to be, that is the question. This is not the sudden outbreak of Hamlet, but it seems he had been thinking about it for a long time. Hamlet's own desire to live or to die is reflected here in this soliloquy. He has arrived to this confusion from the earlier soliloquies. It is a deep reflection of Hamlet whether to end this life of suffering or live with this until he gets the kind of justice. This, this deep agony and pain he has been going through his life since he had come to know about the father's murder, his inability to take an appropriate action. All, all this leads him to such a thought. This soliloquy, to be or not to be, is full of questions, not only to himself but to the whole humanity. He thinks, it is a better to die and go to deeper sleep, but again feels that who knows? Who knows what happens after the death? We can find that this soliloquy is rotated around three main themes. They are: first one is doubt and uncertainty, the life and death, and lastly, the madness. Being a cultured and educated mind, Hamlet does not readily believe his father's ghost. It could be a false ghost. A host of questions surround his mind, like what he saw was right. Did his uncle really poison his father? Should he really kill himself or his uncle? What could be what could be the consequences of such an act? The second theme of this soliloquy is regarding the life and the death. Hamlet thinks about uncertainty of dying and the kind of a suffering that dying would bring. It is here he understands that why he did not kill a praying uncle. Praying would bring his uncle to heaven, which he did not feel his uncle deserves. Regarding badness, we're not sure, like Hamlet himself, if his words have been listened by the Polonius and uncle, King Claudius. The burden of life of Hamlet wants to throw off, but in between he wants to confirm if his uncle had been murderer or not. In a way, he is a sort of a feigning madness, showing madness. Was he really a mad or not? Will be revealed as the play goes on advances. The soliloquy uses several metaphors like undiscovered country. It has repetitions like to die, to sleep, to die. And the examples of mononymy. This soliloquy has been used by the popular culture as well, like Sesame Street Patrick Stewart for the kids. We can note the popularity of this soliloquy. Right from baffling the scholars, it entertains the kids. But, my dear friends, you are to act like a student. Scholars analyze this soliloquy to be or not to be. That is the question. Would you or would you not?